This is Donald, and I'd like to welcome you to this 21st session in an ongoing series of webinars on sacred number and geometry. The first 20 sessions are available on makara.us, thanks to Brett Mitchell. If you have any questions about the GoToMeeting interface, feel free to text BL, who's standing by. If you'd like to add your name to the list of readers, which I encourage you to do, please raise your digital hand, which shows you on the screen here how to do that. The more readers we have, the better. Okay. During the last webinar, we began our survey of the number 7 and analyzed the 7-sided web of Athena. Today, we'll continue our survey of sevenness and explore the idea of the hidden 7 through an analysis of this figure. Now, to put a face on the idea of the hidden 7th, let's take a look at the 7th major arcanum of the Tarot, called the Chariot, or alternatively, the Charioteer. The idea of pure spirit, the concept behind the hidden 7th, is often represented by the point at the center of a circle, or sphere, cube, or any other symmetrical geometric figure. Though it can also be represented by the point of conjunction of the two lines of a cross, or an X, or even the tip of an arrow, such as in the case of Pluto and Sagittarius. In all cases, this point represents the portal leading into more causal dimensions. This is the geometric equivalent of the indwelling jiva, that point of pure spirit, which animates the form it inhabits. For a human being, that point is the monad, personified in this arcanum by the charioteer himself. In the Chariot Arcanum painted by Lady Frida Harris, no part of the charioteer's face and body is uncovered. Aleister Crowley states, "The visor of his helmet is closed, for no man can look on his face and live." In sacred geometry, the cube surrounding this point represents the form taken by the indwelling jiva in the realm of time and space. For us, that form is the personality. In the Chariot Arcanum, the form aspect is symbolized by the chariot itself, depicted as a stone cube. The stone cube also appears as the throne of the Empress, the third arcanum, who represents the spiritual triad informing the cube of space, and as the throne of the Emperor, representing dominion over the lower quaternary. The 3 of the Empress and the 4 of the Emperor add to 7, the number of the charioteer. Kayeth, the Hebrew letter associated with the chariot, means fence, or more specifically, an area set apart for cultivation, an apt description for the personality, and of the physical plane, which the number 7 signifies. The chariot is associated with Cancer, the gateway into the human kingdom. The crescent moons on the charioteer's shoulders show the moon's rulership in Cancer, and the charioteer's belt represents the zodiac, with the one readable sign being Cancer. It's even tilted like the ecliptic. The human function associated with the chariot is speech, which, like Kayeth, the fence, is a means of delineating a series of spoken thought forms. Paul Foster Case describes the chariot as the abode of inflowing power, and the charioteer as the living consciousness within that abode, the monad in the personality vehicle. The mercurial winged solar orb mirrors this idea, deity enthroned in the realm of duality. Thus, the charioteer and chariot form a spirit-matter yin-yang duality, also symbolized by the cup and flame on the front of the chariot. This is the Holy Grail, which suggests that the purpose of the charioteer is to bear witness through thought and speech to the fire of spirit on the physical plane. 7 represents physicality and completion. Everything about the charioteer suggests a synthesis of the potencies of the 6 major trumps that precede him. He is the true self, grounded by the chariot in time and space. In synthesis, we have unity, and this arcanum reveals the most important aspect of the number 7, the fact that it is inextricably tied to oneness. Thus, the charioteer is the magician in manifestation. The magician is Mercury, whose symbol graces the chariot. We see this 1 to 7 polarity in the rays expressed in the 1st and 7th kingdoms. The mineral kingdom expresses 7th ray through radiation, and 1st ray through the inherent power of its form nature, whereas the solar kingdom, the highest kingdom, expresses the 1st ray through universal will and the 7th ray through synthetic ritual. Dr. Waite says about the charioteer, he holds captivity itself captive. He holds captivity itself captive. He is conquest on all planes, above all triumph in the mind. Another reference to Mercury. It's just interesting in light of the fact that according to DK, when a disciple approaches initiation, quote, either the brain or the mind, and frequently both, are controlled by the 7th ray. Indeed, the fundamental meaning of the 7th ray, the fusion of spirit and matter, is personified by this arcanum. The meaning expressed in the Sephirah of the Tree of Life and the major arcana of the Tarot are closely related. For example, the black and white of the 2 sphinxes mirrors the pillars of the High Priestess, which in turn mirrors the left and right columns of the Tree of Life. The white pillar is mercy, the black, severity. The 7th and lowest Sephiroth on the pillar of mercy is entitled Netzach. Though it is usually called victory, its literal translation is eternity. The 2 Sephirah above it, of Netzach, on the white pillar of mercy, are loving kindness, or mercy, and wisdom. With the 2nd Sephiroth at the top, this pillar clearly expresses the love wisdom of the 2nd ray. The victory alluded to in the name of this Sephiroth is not the sudden victory of the battlefield, but rather the patient, long-suffering but enduring victory of the triumphant initiate. The same concepts depicted in the Chariot Arcanum. Okay, now let's take a closer look at the 7th ray, which began coming into manifestation in 1675. The 7th ray and the concept of Fohat are closely interrelated, for both dynamically link cosmic ideation, or mind with a capital M, to the form aspect. As one of the stanzas of Zion puts it, Fohat is a steed and thought is the rider. And in another passage, the spark hangs from the flame by the finest thread of Fohat. These are metaphors for a self-conscious, intelligent, electrical agency that affects the prototypal substance in such a way that it, quote, blooms into full objectivity. Let me repeat that. It's a mouthful here. Fohat is a self-conscious, intelligent, electrical agency that affects prototypal substance in such a way that it blooms into full objectivity. There is a disciple, or discipline, called Zayu, which is described in the Secret Doctrine as the one real magical knowledge. This is very much akin to the seventh ray. During involutional cycles, Zayu becomes Fohat in order to complete the process of differentiations. This is a demonstration of the organizing energy of the seventh ray. But once differentiation is achieved, Fohat becomes a transformative agent, aggregating atoms of substance, which are units of consciousness, into ever more inclusive groups. This is the fusing energy of the seventh ray. So you have the organizing and fusing principles that are involutionary and evolutionary. Can we get a reader for this passage on the seventh ray?
Okay, let's go with Malia, please.
The seventh, I think that says rays.
Yeah, that's seventh ray.
Yeah, seventh ray is par excellence, the medium of relationship. It brings together the two fundamental aspects of spirit and matter. It relates soul and form, and where humanity is concerned, it relates soul and personality. It is the will to be and to know simultaneously on all planes of manifestation.
Thank you, Malia. Okay, this is where Uranus, the logos who transmits the seventh ray, comes in. For Uranus is in our solar system, along with the sun, the primary storehouse of Fohatic energy. Just as Saturn represents the solar logoic physical permanent atom, and Neptune the astral PA, Uranus represents the solar logoic monastic permanent atom. Uranus receives and transmits this electrical force, which is the force of the seventh ray, from Sirius via Pisces and the hierarchy to humankind. DK says, well, let's get a reader for this to get you guys involved here.
Okay, let's see. Scott, can you read for us, please?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. To bring this about, energy from Shambhala, embodying the will to good, is fused and blended with the organizing energy of the seventh ray, and when carried to humanity along the stream of love, which emanates from the hierarchy itself.
Thank you. So an initiate becomes a transmitter of this energy when he or she mounts the cardinal cross, and thus begins to function under the influence of Uranus. You see this in Leo, where the sun veils Uranus at the highest levels. DK tells us, let's see here, wait a minute, that's a little racy for you guys. DK tells us the head center becomes the center in the initiate's body through which direction and control come. Only then can the initiate be said to possess true occult consciousness, which DK describes as the intelligent fusing condition which produces at-one-ment of the higher and lower self through the intelligent use of the mind. This fusing occurs through the energy of the seventh ray, which is particularly active at the first initiation. But the fusing energy inherent in the seventh ray also governs the sacral center, and thus all sexual relationships. The inflow of this fusing energy sexually energizes the disciple as he or she approaches the first initiation. For this reason, the first great transference is from the sacral to the throat center. Rumi describes this process in his poem, Chickpea to Cook. This is just a tiny fragment of the total poem. Grace first, sexual pleasure, then a boiling new life begins, and the friend has something good to eat. We might surmise that the boiling new life refers to an energetic transference by means of the seventh ray from the sacral to the throat center. The friend is, of course, the soul. Can we get a reader for this passage?
Ecclesia, please go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
The seventh ray is therefore setting in motion a period of tremendous creative activity. This first major proof that humanity, through the medium of the majority of its advanced people, has undergone the first initiation, will be the appearance of a cycle of entirely new creative art. This creative urge will take forms which will express the new incoming energies.
Thank you, Felicia. But DK doesn't confine the concept of creativity only to the arts, but he considers creativity to be the path itself. He says, under the influencing radiation of the seventh ray, note that phrasing, the influencing radiation, humanity will be led from the unreal to the real. It's part of the first initiation. Okay, this is part and parcel with the teachings about Fohat, which we're told in the Secret Doctrine emits the creative ray and thus reunites in a mystic supersensuous act that which was earlier separated. So you can see the association between these, the concept of Fohat and the seventh ray. So the spirit-infusing, organizing quality of the seventh ray dispels disorder and chaos and introduces a positive rhythm in the life of the disciple and in humanity as a whole. As we look with dismay at the shadows of the sixth ray manifest in the world today, the last, we hope, threatening gasp of the Piscean age, we can be buoyed by the fact that the energy of the incoming seventh ray will ultimately triumph. And can we get a reader for this uplifting passage?
Iris, please go ahead.
Nothing can arrest this activity. All that is happening today as men search for the new ways, for organized unity and peaceful security, is being implemented through the incoming ray of order and ceremonial magic. The white magic of right human relations cannot be stopped. It must inevitably demonstrate effectively, because the energy of this seventh ray is present, and the Lord of the ray is cooperating with the Lord of the world to bring about the needed reforming. Soul-infused personalities acting under this ray influence will create the new world, express the new qualities, and institute those new regimes and organized modes of creative activity, which will demonstrate the new livingness and the new techniques of living.
Thank you very much. It's interesting to, that he used both the phrases, the new livingness and the new techniques of living. It makes the idea of new livingness suggesting an actual experience of life being enhanced, right? And then, as well, the new techniques of living, one coming out of the other. Okay, the Lord of that ray that DK speaks of is, of course, Uranus, which, through its waxing influence, as we move into the Aquarian age, leads humanity to the burning ground. This is a piece I did connected with the sign of Leo, because Uranus is, the sun veils Uranus as one moves into the higher stages of this sign. And part of the process that's happens as a result of this experience in Leo is that Uranus takes one to the threshold of the burning ground. So that's what this piece is called and what it depicts. Okay, here again we see the close tie between the seventh and first rays. For both Vulcan and Pluto will play an increasingly active role and the purification of humanity as it approaches the first initiation. Can we get a reader for this short part?
Okay, I'm going back to Malia because we didn't get that many volunteers so far.
No
Jump
problem.
in there. Jump in there, folks.
The seventh ray, sorry.
Go right ahead.
The seventh ray is, in the last analysis, the focused, differentiated energy of Ray 1 as it expresses the will of the first aspect of divinity on earth through the power to relate and bring into objective manifestation by an act of the will, both spirit and matter.
Thank you, Malia. So we're told that, quote, Uranus rules the occult way and is, in an esoteric sense, connected with the Hierophant of the mysteries of initiation. Well, clearly this would be true since it's electrical in nature, and an important part of the initiatory process happens through the rod of initiation, which transfers this electrical energy. This reformation, made possible through the cooperation between Sunakumara and Uranus, the logos of Uranus, the seventh ray logos, will be brought about because the spirit-infusing influence of Uranus shifts the initiate's monastic center of gravity onto the higher three subplanes of the mental plane, where the light of the intuition displaces intellectual perception as the primary modus operandi of the initiate. The intellect is in no way diminished, but is now informed by the intuition. This fulfills the purpose of Uranus to, quote, blend more adequately the inner and outer man. Finally, we must remember that esoterically, Uranus is a first-ray planet. That is to say, it is the final synthesizing planet in our solar system. DK describes Uranus as, quote, God the Father, he who relates, the source of duality, he who perceives the end from the beginning, spiritual consciousness. But what about the ceremonial magic aspect of the seventh ray? Ceremony and ritual have a much broader application than many realize. DK says, all service is governed by ritual, and speaks of scientific ritual, which he describes as recognition of, quote, the evidence of a custody of forces and energies which enable cooperation with the plan. Thus, we could look at ceremonial magic as the means by which spirit and matter are fused. Can we get a reader for this part?
Yes, let's go to Nancy. She volunteered.
Yay, Nancy.
Hi. One of the first lessons that humanity will learn under the potent influence of the seventh ray is that the soul controls its instrument, the personality, through ritual or through the imposition of a regular rhythm, for rhythm is what really designates a ritual. Deity works with ritual and is subjected to the ceremonials of the universe. The seven rays come into activity and pass out again under the rhythmic and ritualistic impulse of the divine life. Thus is the temple of the Lord built by the ceremonial of the builders. Every kingdom in nature is subjected to ritualistic experience and to the ceremonials of cyclic expression. These only the initiate can comprehend. Every anthill and every beehive is equally impelled by instinctive rituals and by rhythmic impulses.
Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
So the purpose and result of ritual is the fusing of spirit and form. And in the three worlds of human endeavor, Ray 7 is a synthetic ray, which engages all aspects of the form world, just as the second ray synthesizes all that pertains to the life force. For instance, at an advanced stage in evolution, the seventh ray fuses the etheric and physical bodies, thus bringing the physical brain into union with its etheric counterpart. This is a very important stage where the brain is better able to comprehend that which is in the mind. I'd like to segue from the seventh ray to violet, the color of the seventh ray, with this passage from Esoteric Psychology 1. We get a reader for this.
Tanya, please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, Tanya, hi.
Oh, hi. Okay.
Whoops, you just cut out.
I'm sorry, that was me. You're
Can
live
I continue?
again. Yes.
Can you continue? The
Go
blue
right
ray
ahead.
of devotion passes now into the violet of what we term the ceremonial ray. What do these words mean? Simply that the great musician of the universe is moving the keys, is sounding another note, and thus bringing in another turn of the wheel, and swinging into the arc of manifestation the ray of violet, the great note G. These rays bring with them, in every kingdom of nature, all that is attuned to them. Human beings, devas of order high or low, elementals of a desirable or undesirable nature, flowers, fruits, and vegetable life, are a certain kind, and animals and forms of varying species. It is the passing out of a ray that signals the ultimate extinction of some particular form, some type of animal life, and leads to some vegetable aspect coming to an end. Hence the confusion among the scientists at this time. The process of coming in is slow, as is all work in nature, and this is a process of passing out. Simultaneously with the cyclic birth and emergency of a new ray is a slow return to its source of the prevailing ray, present at the advent of the new.
Thank you, Tanya.
You're welcome.
So, as indicated, the color associated with the seventh ray is violet. Among its unique qualities is to provide a bridge between the human and the Deva kingdoms. In Letters on Occult Meditation, DK introduces the concept of esoteric colors. One of the few esoteric colors he gives is esoteric violet, which is white. Hence the close connection between white magic and the violet devas. DK tells us that when a heavenly man integrates the human and Deva kingdoms of his planet, he is considered to be esoterically white, a synonym for perfection. Astonishingly, the reverse is also true. The esoteric counterpart of white is violet. Violet and white are the only reciprocal esoteric colors given. In this, DK makes a clear distinction between violet and purple, for esoterically purple is blue. Remember, violet is white, but purple is esoterically blue. He gives us only two other esoteric color equivalents. Exoteric yellow is esoterically indigo, and exoterically a color DK calls cream is esoterically yellow. Note how, just like purple and violet, DK is making a clear distinction between cream and white. By giving us these particular two colors, he's cream and yellow, he's telling us that in the yellow indigo paradigm, indigo is not esoterically yellow because cream is. Thus, indigo and yellow are not reciprocal as violet and white are. He also may be indicating the existence of a hierarchy of colors. For example, a progression from exoteric cream to yellow, which is its esoteric counterpart, to esoteric indigo, which is in turn the esoteric counterpart of yellow. He doesn't say this, but it may be indicated by this. You know, it's easy to view this line of inquiry as esoterically interesting, but not particularly practical in our daily service. But DK suggests otherwise. He says, especially would I urge you, who are the teachers and students of the coming generation, that's us, by the way, to ponder upon the significance of white being esoterically violet. It has special application now in the coming in of the violet ray, the seventh ray, being one of the three major rays in this round. It wields power in ratio to the 4, on the 4, and under the 4. It's a very interesting observation. Since this applies to all of us present, you might consider taking this statement into meditation, keeping in mind that the exo-esoteric relationship between colors suggests a vibratory link between them, which is always a link between form and spirit. At first, working with color in this way may seem daunting. I mean, what do we really know about white? Well, one way of finding out, in addition to scouring every mention of these colors in the esoteric literature, is to use the same 5 steps of analysis that we use every month to explore both white and violet. It's just a possible line of study that you could look into. But it's fascinating, isn't it, that DK suggests the importance of looking at the fact that white is esoterically violet, and the importance of that. Okay. Another place that we find violet is in the color, which means the vibrational nature of the devas of the etheric subplanes of the physical plane, the 7th plane. Can we get a reader for this section on the devas?
Yes, let's go to Gabrielle. Let me unmute her if I can find her. There we go. Go ahead, please, Gabrielle.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
These devas of the shadows are of a dark purple on the 4th etheric level, of a lighter purple, much the same color as violet on the 3rd etheric level, a light violet on the 2nd, while on the atomic subplane they are of a glorious translucent lavender. 4 groups of violet devas associated with the etheric doubles of all that exists on the physical plane can be contacted. These 4 are in 2 divisions, those associated with the building of the etheric doubles and those out of whose substance these doubles are built. For these violet devas, the path of attainment lies through feeling and through educating the race in the perfecting of the physical body. The violet devas are on the evolutionary path. The elementals are on the involutionary path, the goal for them being to pass into the deva kingdom of violet hue.
Thanks, Gabrielle.
Mm-hmm.
In the Aquarian age, this hierarchy of violet devas will instruct humanity on many levels. Perhaps most importantly, they will teach us to see etherically, thus opening a new world for science to explore. Extraordinarily, this will be done through changes in the actual physical eye, not through clairvoyance. Among the discoveries will be the web that divides the physical from the astral body, which will lead to methods for consciously linking with the astral body. Control over etheric levels will dramatically change our experience of weight, speed, and time. DK says, in the human control of the etheric levels lies the lessening of fatigue, rapidity of transit, and the ability to transcend time. We're told that violet, through both violet light and the musical tones that correspond to the graded shades of violet, are a potent source of healing for physical plane illnesses that have their origin in the etheric body. And many, many of them do, a high percentage. Healers will be able to call in certain violet devas who will sound a tone that will destroy diseased tissue and other tones that will replace it with healthy tissue. DK says, man will in the future concentrate more on the sound condition of the etheric body, and the functioning of the dense physical body will become practically automatic. And then there's this extraordinary passage. Some physicians get much knowledge subjectively from a violet deva working on the atomic subplane of the physical plane, aided by a deva of the causal level who works with or through their egos. As a final statement on violet, we really must go to this description of Uranus. Uranus, 7th, the school of magic of the 10th order. It is sometimes called the planet of the violet force, and its graduates wield the power of cosmic etheric prana. Keep in mind that cosmic etheric prana vitalizes the Adi, monadic, atmic, and buddhic planes of our cosmic physical plane, thus indicating the high order of this violet force. Okay. As the 7th sign of the zodiac, DK says, well, let's get a reader for this section.
Okay, let's go back to Scott.
It is through Uranus that the great pair of opposites, Aries-Libra, are brought into touch with each other in a very deep sense. Through its activity, an intense interplay takes place, making for the attainment of equilibrium in Libra, of that which it had its beginning in Aries.
Thank you. Through Aries and Libra, we again see this link between 1 and 7, the 1st and 7th signs of the zodiac. The importance of 7 in esoteric astrology cannot be overstated. The 7 stars in the Great Bear each relate to one of the 7 sacred planets in our solar system. The Secret Doctrine tells us it is the 7 rishis who mark the time and duration of events in our septenary life cycle. There are 7 stars in the Pleiades, called the 7 sisters, but also known as the 7 wives of the rishis of the Great Bear. The Pleiades, called in ancient times the Atlantides, were directly connected to the 7 races of Atlantis. The Secret Doctrine tells us our 7 planetary logi are transmitters via their 7 schemes to the 7 stars of the Pleiades. And the Pleiades are negatively polarized to our 7 schemes, which means that we are receptive of the energy coming from the Pleiades. That's what negative polarity signifies. It further states the number 7 is closely connected with the occult significance of the Pleiades, the 6th present and the 7th hidden. Finally, we have the one whom not may be said, which DK calls the sum total of the life aspect. And it is made up of 7 solar systems, including our own. The treatise on cosmic fire tells us the 7 stars of the Great Bear correspond to the 7 head centers of the great entity, of this great entity. So this is just the briefest of overviews. When in this survey of 7ness, we are, of course, unable to go into any depth on each of these topics, which could be a webinar in themselves. You really could do a webinar just on these cosmic interrelations. But what I'm trying to put forth here is the idea that of the pervasive influence of 7 as a conditioning quality of and grouping of all these different form aspects. Okay, with that, let's move into our analysis of this month's figure, which I've dubbed the hidden 7th. BK describes the first step of our analysis simply as its exoteric consideration: line, form, and color. In this case, not color so much. At this point, we're not looking for meaning or significance, but rather for a tabulation of physical attributes. We'd love to have you participate. When called on, briefly describe a single physical attribute. Your observations may seem obvious, like the ones listed here. That's fine. Any ideas that help us to physically define this figure will be useful. Okay, I'll start. By the way, as others and I describe these attributes, consider preparing for the next step of our analysis by imagining their possible meaning as significance. Make a connection between these physical attributes and what that might signify and mean. You may even want to jot down the ideas as they occur to you in order to share during the next segment of the analysis. Okay, this figure is made up of 6 circles enclosing a 7th. I told you that we can be extremely obvious. All physical attributes should be stated. My second point is the inner edges of the 6 enclosing circles form a circumference identical to the circumference of these 6 circles, giving the that inner circle, that hidden 7th, is actually created by the surrounding 6th. Or you can look at it the other way, that the inner circle manifests itself through those which surround it. But I'm getting into meaning. So let's just stick to the physical here. Okay, do we have any further observations? What other physical characteristics do you see? PL, do we have any takers?
Not so far.
Well, they always respond eventually.
They're still thinking.
Now,
they're round. Here we go.
Okay.
Please go ahead, Martin.
Hey, Martin.
Hi. There's 3 right across the center, and then that 3 separates 2 on up and 2 below.
I see. Yeah. Right.
That
So
may
you
not
have
be well described, but that's what's going on.
you have you can see this as a group of one set of 3 and 2 sets of 2.
That's right.
And yeah. Correct. Any other thoughts about this? Okay,
Yes.
I'm going to give you a little. Okay, go ahead. No hints until you don't have any ideas.
Let me see. 7 circles with 12 points of contact. This is from Jan. 6 between the central circle and 6 between the surrounding 6 circles.
Oh, the points of contact. Very good. That's something I did not take into account. Excellent. Oh, I love it when you guys do that. That's great. Yeah. We have 12 points of contact. That's a significant fact. Thank you for that.
Okay, and then Gabrielle says there are 12 figure 8s, or infinity glyphs, formed by the adjoining circles.
Yes, indeed. Excellent. Yeah, there's 12 potential pairs. Okay, yeah. I'm busily counting, even as you said. Yeah, I see that. Great.
Okay, and then Helen says 3 sets of 3 circles in the crossing at the center. I think that must be close to what Martin was bringing up.
Well, Martin was talking about how you can see them as 2 sets of 2 and 1 set of 3. This is the 3 axes, which gives us 3 sets of 3. The middle one is, of course, used 3 times when you look at it that way.
Okay, and then Tanya has a comment, so please.
Yes,
go ahead.
Tanya.
Okay, well, I see the 7 circles as representing manifestation. And
Okay,
the
hang
8th
on.
circle, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I see the 7 circles, meaning manifestation. and of course exchanging energies among themselves through the points of contacts, and then the unseen eighth surround them all as all the entire realm of emptiness. Therefore, the manifestation of the seven represents bliss, and then we have the unseen as a manifestation of emptiness, the great space womb.
That's a fabulous thought, and I'm going to ask you to remember that so that when we get to the next phase of our analysis, you can bring that back up. Because at this point, we're just looking for straightforward physical attributes of the figure. But that's a profound thought, and I want you, and I'll call on you to restate it when we get to that section. Okay, Tanya?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, folks. Physical attributes. What else? Got some good ones going, too, that I missed. Anything else? Now, I'll give you a clue.
Please go ahead, Iris.
Okay, go ahead,
This
Iris.
is similar. Hi, this is similar to what Jan said. The outer circles have 3 points of contact each, and the inner circle has 6 points of contact.
Yeah, right. Yeah, where she said there were 12 total contacts, yeah, that's a good point. Each circle, the outer has 3 and the inner has 6. Excellent. Wow, you guys are sharp today. Okay, I'm going to give my clue because you guys won't let me get my clue in.
Oh, because we have one more hand.
Okay, well, I'm going to get my clue anyway.
Okay.
And then we'll have the hand. The clue is also think in terms of relationships that aren't specifically drawn. That how you could, for instance, what this figure suggests in terms of something that further could be shown. Just a hint. Okay, go ahead.
I'm struck by, well, it's the 2 triangles, of course, the upward pointing and the downward pointing that are formed by groups of 4 circles. Almost the old peace symbol.
Yeah, okay, wait a minute. A peace symbol. I don't get the peace symbol, but I get... Oh, yeah. There's a great peace symbol there. You're right. Yeah, sure enough. Yeah. Right, and then the upward pointing triangle, then you would go through the, through the...
They both go through the center.
Right, you go through the center. Yeah, that's great. So you'd have the points and then the baseline shown in the to create those 2 triangles. Very cool. That was exactly what I was just asking for, the idea that you can construct forms that aren't actually represented by just the relationship of these 7 circles. Okay, guys, you're on a roll. You're doing really well. Other physical attributes.
Yes, there's related to my previous comment about the 3 points and the 6 points of contact. There are 6 triangles, which each have 3 sides, surrounding the inner circle. So the 6 and the 3 corresponds again.
Oh, you mean triangles that could be formed by those 3 points?
The space in between the circles.
Oh, right.
In the
Okay.
inner part.
Yes, indeed. Right. There are 6 curvilinear triangles that are the negative space, but nonetheless enclosed and created by these 7 circles. Excellent. Yes, indeed. Okay.
And then Scott?
Yeah, Scott.
Looking at the circumferences of the circles, the center one has its singular circumference. If you take the circumference, unite the centers of the 6 surrounding circles and make a circle of that, it has twice the radius of the inner circle. And if you draw a circle that circumscribes the whole thing, it has 3 times the radius of the central one. If you connect connect the center points of each of the circles,
That's right.
you have the cube. So you have taken a rectilinear form, a cube, and turned it into circles.
Yes, indeed. That's exactly right, and you will see an illustration of that point. But thanks particularly for pointing out the relative circumferences where you have, if you go through, let me restate what Scott just said. If you draw a circle through the center points of the outer circles, that circle would have twice the diameter of the central circle, or of any of the circles, and that if you drew a circle around the entire 7, it would be 3 times the diameter. Therefore, you have a 1, 2, 3 progression of diameters. Very good point. And I will be illustrating the cube concept shortly. Anything else?
Nope, I don't see anything else.
Okay. No, A. That's it. Okay. That works. Great work. Some really good points. Here's some additional physical attributes. Some of these you've brought forward. I present them again in order to share my illustrations with you. This figure can be aligned either vertically or horizontally. If we assign the 3 primary colors and the 3 secondary colors to the 6 outer circles, the inner circle becomes white if the 6 colors are combined as light, and black if the 6 colors are combined, are mixed as pigment. Now again, you could think in terms, as I go through these, and hopefully you've been doing this as other people have been bringing forth their points. What could this mean? What does this indicate? Okay, there are, as someone pointed out, 6 curvilinear triangles within the figure. When we connect the center points, thank you, Scott, of each of the circles, we get a hexagon made up of 6 equilateral triangles. This is also one of the orthogonal views of the cube, which, as we know, has 6 faces. This phenomena of circles surrounding a single circle can be extended into 3D space, where we find that 12 spheres precisely enclose a 13th. When pi, which is 3.14159265359, is multiplied by 7, the sum is 21.99 and change, less than 1/100th of a unit from an even number. A similar result, interestingly, is achieved when multiplying the area of the 7 circles, when the radius is 1. Thus, the pi fraction, 0.14159, is very close, less than 1/100th, to 1/7th, which is 1/4. They both start with 1/4, and then 285. Okay, our figure is made up of 3 sets of 3 circles, creating 3 axes that are 6-degree angles to each other. And I think someone brought this point out. Okay, an equal-armed cross, which determines the central point of the figure, can be formed by connecting the central points of the 3 vertical circles and the conjunction of the 2 circles on each side of the figure. If we set any one of the 6 outer circles into rotational motion in such a way that it transfers its movement to its neighboring circles, all 6 outer circles would rotate in harmony, 3 in one direction, 3 in the other. However, since the central circle would receive equal rotational force from the 2 sets of the oppositely rotating circles, it would remain immobile. 4 concentric circles can be overlaid on this figure, defined by 1, the inner circle, 2, the points where the 6 outer circles meet, And 3, the center points of the outer circles. It's interesting that those two aren't the same. And 4, the outer perimeter. If we enclose any 2 opposite sets of 3 circles within a circle, and then expand those enclosing circles until they cross at the center points of the upper and lower circles, we form a vesica Pisces. Okay, let me run that by you again. See that the thin black circle surrounding 3, that's the first step. You enclose 3 circles. And then you move that circle out, or you expand it outward, until they cross at the center point of the top blue circle and the bottom blue circle. At that point, you get a vesica Pisces. When we enclose all 6 3-circle sets, we get this figure made up of 30 shapes surrounding a singular 31st shape. So you can see the mechanism of it in the small figure in the upper left-hand corner there, where you're enclosing each group of 3 circles with a larger circle. And then the big figure there in the middle shows you what that looks like without the little circles. Okay. So this is 30 surrounding a 31st shape. Interesting, in light of the fact that the web of Athena is made up of, that's the figure in the lower left, is made up of 50 shapes surrounding a singular 51st shape. These 30 shapes are organized into 5 6-petaled flower-like shapes encircling a central shape. By means of the 3 axes, we can create 3 rectangles within the figure. You can see them there. There's an orange one, a green one, and a dark blue rectangle, which when overlaid give us a 6-pointed star within a hexagon. This also creates an equilateral triangle within each of the outer 6 circles. If we then connect the points of the inner hexagon, we create a second 6-pointed star and a third hexagon that fits precisely within the inner circle. It points to the deep relationship between the circle and the hexagon. Okay, and finally, both the 3 hexagons and the 2 stars alternate between a vertical and horizontal polarity. Okay, during that that exegesis, did you come up with any other ideas about the physical attributes of this figure? Anybody have a great idea that they just have to share?
Well, actually, Francis, there were a couple of things that were shared that I didn't catch until after you had started talking. So
okay, why don't you run those by us?
Let me see if I can. 3 axes.
Extract them.
That had been said. Gabriel brought that up. Blends the 7 and the 12, 7 planets, 7 rays, 12 signs. Jan added that. The 6-pointed star around the central circle from Helen, and 6 triangles between the centers of the circles from Jan. So they covered some of the stuff you were just talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm sorry I missed it earlier.
That's all right. No problem. Okay.
Oh, and Joe added essentially one continuous line, the 7 or 1.
One continuous line, the 7 or 1. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, Joe. One continuous line, 7 or 1. I'm not sure.
Does it get into the crazy 8s? Yeah. The infinity.
Right. Good point. That you could. I didn't try it, but it would be very interesting to see if you could, trace a line without lifting your pencil and go all the way around. I think you could. I'm kind of doing it now as we speak. Well, I think you'd have to do a little retracing, but you certainly could cover the entire form with a line without raising your pencil. It's a good point. Thank you.
And Scott has a comment. Please go ahead, Scott.
What if you looked at this thing as a net, an unfolded three-dimensional figure made up of circles? Would you not get like a circular tetrahedron, fold 3 up and 3 down around a center circle?
Well, let's see. Well, just take a tetrahedron, which is got 4 sides, right?
Yeah, just take
So you would have
your upper 2 circles on the left and the left and right, and the one on the bottom. Fold those, say, away to make it a triangle. Take the other 3 up, so it goes 3-dimensional. So
yes.
3 up and down in the center.
Yeah, that would work. Of course, there's there is no 7-sided figure as such,
Right.
but you could. Would you be reusing the middle circle?
Yeah, it's in the center, and so it's just the base for both.
Right.
The triangles.
Yeah, I could see also the idea of doing what's called the Merkaba, which is it's 2 tetrahedrons that are interlocked, one pointing up and one pointing down. You could do with this.
That too, for sure. That's even better. Connect the center point.
Yeah, good point. Bringing up the 3D potential of this figure. Okay, let's go to the next point in our analysis. DK separates the next stage of our analysis into 2 parts as follows. Why don't we get a reader for this?
Okay. Clesia, please go ahead.
A comprehension in the astral or emotional body of its quality, the reaction of a sensitive response to the impact of its qualitative nature, a conceptual consideration of its underlying idea, of what it is intended to teach, of the intellectual meaning it is intended to convey.
Thank you. Okay, so in the interest of time, we'll consider these 2 steps at the same time. When sharing, you're welcome to speak to either the emotional or conceptual aspects of this figure, because we have a astral mental polarity here. So, considering the list of physical attributes, as well as those that you've brought forth, what quality, significance, and or meaning can we ascribe to this figure? Here's one example each based on quality or significance and on conceptual meaning. In terms of significance, when I look at this figure, I'm struck with a sense of geometric harmony, which manifests throughout the figure as well as throughout the forms that can be derived from this figure. In terms of conceptual meaning, I see the outer manifestation mirroring itself on the model of the inner archetype, or as within, so without, a slightly different take on the maxim, as above, so below. Okay, so that's those are the 2 I'm putting in to sort of get things going. Any further ideas on the quality, significance, and or meaning of this figure? As you're thinking about this, you may wish to consider the list of physical attributes as well as the ones you've come up with. I'll give you a minute to review. Actually, what we'll do is let's go back to Tanya. And Tanya, do you feel capable of restating your observation that you made before? Because it was quite a good one. And the others of you, just raise your hand when you're ready. So, Tanya, are you still with us?
We can't hear you, Tanya. I've got you unmuted. Do you have yourself on self-mute? Well, let's go back to Tanya in a minute. Tanya, raise your hand when you're ready to speak, because we'll go to Scott, okay? Is that...
That's fine with me.
I can't mute her. Something's wrong with her.
Okay,
go
well,
ahead, Scott.
just when you get that worked out behind the scenes, we'll go on in the meantime. Go, Scott.
Okay. Yeah, one of the things I think about when I consider the Pleiades and the fact that 6 of them are seen and 1 is not, we look here at 6 circles and a center circle. And the question comes to mind for me always on this, which generated which? Did the 6 create the 7th in form, or did the central one create the outer 7 and sort of disappear? Outer 6, rather.
Yes.
See what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. That's, it's when, which came first, right? Because if you, from a form point of view, if you look at this strictly as form aspect, it would seem that the 6 create the middle one, because when you put these 6 and you arrange them exactly symmetrically, by aligning their central points onto a circle, for instance, it generates the 7th. It is just there. But we know from our esoteric teaching that form doesn't generate a spirit, that it's the other way around. And even from a physical attribute point of view, you can see that if you have a circle, you automatically have 6 circles that will fit on its perimeter of the same diameter. It's a rather extraordinary fact of nature, so to speak. And it shows this very close connection between the hexagon and the circle. It's just, they are... Yeah, go ahead.
It also speaks to the discussion we've had several times in the past about the missing father aspect, or in terms of 6 being seen and 1 being unseen. Are we talking about the highest plane being unmanifest, or are we talking about the lowest not being a principle? And therefore not? Yeah,
exactly. Yes, the lowest being below the threshold is another way of seeing the hidden 7ths. It's really a question of perspective. Are you approaching it from a form side, or from a spirit side? I want to recap. Were we able to get Tanya back online? Not yet.
It looks like she's trying to come back on. Here, let me try this one. Hi, Tanya. Are you back with us?
Yes, I'm back. I had an internet problem here, but I'm back.
Oh, okay. Can you restate what you said before about about this figure? It was quite good.
Well, one thing that made my mind wander out of the physical attributes was the lack of the bindu, the center point of reference. As far as the mandala concept is concerned, this allows us to go in form and out of form, like a quantum leap from the mandala to a yantra. So it was easy for me to look at the whole thing and beyond what was manifested. And then I got these 2 situations of the mind, which are considered extreme situations. One where you have the bliss of manifestation, and then where you have the emptiness, which encloses all of our probabilities and potentials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like the point you made about the 8th. It was an important point that pitches us. We have from a purely exoteric point of view, we have the 6, right? Form side.
Yes.
And that describes, if you're looking from the form side, it describes the hidden 7th. But inherent in the whole thing always is the circle that encloses them all, right? So, and you brought that out before, which is the 8th, which suggests the idea of the octave, which we'll be getting to when we get into the number 8. So, yeah, that's a very good point. Any other observations, Tanya, on this?
No, it's lovely. The geometric harmony, just beautiful. The light.
Yeah, it's quite simple, but it's yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, meaning and significance. Any other thoughts? Anyone else?
I don't see any more.
Anyway,
Yes.
we're going to give people a
Yes.
little time.
Okay, please go ahead, Martin.
Yes. When the light of the 7 rays is blended with that of the 7th ray, then light supernal can be known. And a lot of fleeting deep impressions have hit me, and they all just fled.
Yeah.
But it ties in with the connection between the white and the indigo, or not indigo, violet. And basically the idea hit me that if you take the 6 and then the central 7th, that's 7, and then all of them together are the 8. And that seems to me, the 8 is the number of the Christ in manifestation. Now 7 is the ray of bringing spirit into living expression, into manifestation. So somehow this statement, when the light of the 7 rays, all 7 circles, is blended with that of the 7th ray, which is the embodiment of the first ray, at that bindu, or that central point, then light supernal can be known. And light supernal is tied to the work of the Christ in Aquarius emanating from a distant point. I'll find that elsewhere, but basically the white light is implied here when this is achieved, I believe.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because 8 can also have, I mean, just look at the figure 8. It has the quality of duality, of the opposite. And so you get that violet-white paradigm of the exoteric-esoteric just in that figure 8. And when you move the 7 to the 8, I can see how we could flip, because it's also the new 1, which is inherent in 7, so, yeah, thank you for that.
Okay.
Great. Okay, anyone else? Thoughts about the esoteric, or that is to say, the meaning and significance of this figure, which we dubbed the hidden 7th? Okay, I'll go on. Here's some additional ideas. Symbolically, the outer 6 circles can be seen as representing the 6 faces of a cube, and the central circle at cube's central point. This represents the classic paradigm of spirit animating form. An animation represented by the 6 rotating circles in contradistinction to the still immobile inner circle. These 6 oppositely rotating circles represent 3 pairs of opposites. I also imagine the 6 rotating around the central hub. In this scenario, the central circle provides a physical stabilizing factor, and its central point is the point of attraction that holds the entire system together. This central circle could suggest the Adi, or first subplane of any plane, with the other 6 circles representing the other 6 subplanes, spiraling down from this central subplane. Their opposite rotational motion would be in keeping with their even-odd designation, since circles 2, 4, and 6 rotate in one direction, and 3, 5, and 7 rotate in the opposite direction. Because the entire system can itself be enclosed in a circle, it becomes fractal. That is to say, each of the circles can themselves be a system. This further illustrates the idea of the 7 and 1. The middle circle then becomes like the Adi subplane of a plane, with the central smallest circle the Adi subplane of the Adi plane. You see what I mean? So if this represented, for instance, the cosmic physical plane, the entire outer circle, then the middle circle would represent the Adi plane, the highest first subplane of the cosmic physical, and then the circle, the littlest circle in the center, would be the first subplane, or the Adi plane of that Adi plane. Okay. In another scenario, this time using the above to below spiritual.
Francis?
Yeah.
Sorry, you have a question. What's an Adi plane?
Oh, good. Adi plane is just, Adi is another word for formless, formless with attitude. It means, it's the first subplane. It's also called the Sea of Fire. It's the highest subplane in any system of 7 subplanes, and it's the purely spiritual or informing subplane. Okay? All right. So, so in another scenario, this time using the above to below spiritual paradigm, the central circle could be seen as representing the 4th subplane of any plane. The point where the lower 4 meet the higher 3. Now, when we assign numbers to the circles using either the Western left to right convention or the Eastern right to left convention, each of the 3 diagonals adds to 12, with 4 being the central fulcrum. 12 is a solar number, and we've seen throughout today, as we, as the comments have come down, the strong connection between 7 and 12. Right? So many. Somebody pointed out that there were 7 points of 12 points of connection. Right? So it's one of the containing numbers. 12 is. So 12 is a solar number, a number of cosmic completion, and as Michael Schneider points out, the number of symbolic and measurement and sacred structure since prehistory. It is also the number of perfection in the Deva kingdom, just as 10 is for the human kingdom. Okay. The sum of 1 through 7 is 28, which is 4 times 7. 28 is the second of 5 perfect numbers, below something like 35 million. And is esoterically a very significant number. DK tells us in the Discipleship of the New Age, Volume 1. Well, let's get a reader for this.
Okay, let's go to Iris.
The time has to come when the disciple can, at will, distribute the ashramic and group soul energy in their pure state. He has, therefore, to distribute energy and not force. There is much confusion in the minds of many disciples upon this matter. Until a man is an initiate of high degree, he seldom dispenses energy. He works with forces, and they concern the 3 worlds. It has been said esoterically that, quote, when the disciple can distribute the 4 forces and make their 7 notes heard, each note of the 7 having a 4-fold expression, he is not able to work with energy. When he works with energy, he works with 7 and not with 28, end quote. Reflect on this. I would add that the 28 belong to the 7, and when the disciple works with 7, he normally and automatically releases the 28, working under the impression of the 7-ray qualities.
Thank you. That was very well read.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is pretty occult stuff. Suffice it to say that our diagram effectively illustrates the idea that the 28 belongs to the 7, and that this figure can be seen as illustrating both force and energy, which DK defines as the sum total of the 7 rays. DK also tells us that 28, as 4 times 7, is the number of years in the cycle of personality. So that connects it with this concept of force, right? The personality and the force and the soul and energy. Thus, I figured could represent this personality cycle. He tells us that in the Aquarian age, education including spiritual education, will span a period of 28 years, divided in increments of 7. He says the whole 28 years of training will be seen as an ordered, directed process, and the goal will be clearly visioned. He divides it into 14 years in the development of the initial stage of the physical, and then 7 astral, 7 mental, and 7 spiritual is the concept. So 7, 7, 7, 7. It's 7 physical, 7 astral, 7 mental, and then 7 concerned with spiritual education. There's an even more occult teaching concerning 4 groups of solar Petries. Petries are the ancestors of the human race itself, which at a certain point in man's evolution will return to the heart of the subjective sun to emerge in a future Manvantara as planetary logi. DK says the 4 groups who found their way to the heart of the system will reappear as the 4 planetary logi, who are the 28, and who thus produce the possibility of the 10 of perfection in another series of manifesting systems. I told you this was occult, but I present this just mainly to show the legitimacy of numerologically reducing 28 to 10, which of course further reduces to 1, again giving us the relationship between 7 and 1. Okay, the numbers in the top 4 circles add to 10, the tetractys, which reduces to 1. The numbers in the bottom 3 circles add to 18, a lunar number, in fact, the number of the moon arcanum in the Tarot, which reduces to 9. 1 is, of course, the number of unity. 9, the number of greatest plurality. So you have another pair of opposites when you look at this above-below addition. All 3 types of motion, rotary, spiralic, and direct, are indicated in this figure. Rotary, through the motion of each individual outer circle, spiralic, through the motion of the outer circles in combination, and direct through the implied motion of the central point, which determines the motion of the entire figure. Okay.
Francis?
Yeah.
Another question. Supplementary 7?
The supplementary 7. What is the supplementary 7?
Yes.
That's a good question. Let's see. Where did that quote appear? I need it in context.
Wasn't it the previous slide?
Let's see. We will find.
Oh, 28 reduces to 7 is what they're...
28 reduces to 10, which is 1. And since this system is made up of 7 circles, there's a relationship between the 28, the 7, and the 10, and the 1. But I'm not sure that answers the question. Let's see if we can.
Was it in the larger one that Iris read?
It might have been. Let's see. We'll go back and see if we can find it. We have a little extra time today. Whoop. Let's see, is it in this one? Supplementary 7. I think it's taking us back quite a ways here to get to that.
Martin says the first slide. Okay.
Is this from Martin?
No, he isn't the one who brought it up, but he said he look at the first slide.
Oh, okay. Well, the only thing I could say about it is the ancient Egyptians had the idea that you had the exoteric and esoteric 7. You never had just the 7. You had the manifest 7, and then you had the pralaic or esoteric 7. And the supplementary 7 would suggest the more exoteric. But I can't give you that as a definitive answer. It is given in one of the rules of in lays and initiations, the supplementary 7.
Sheldon's
Yeah, I
got his
think,
hand up. Let's
Francis, this is Sheldon. It's Rule 8, page 151. There's a reference to the supplementary 7.
Oh, great. Could you read it?
Well, okay. The supplementary 7, the 7 centers of energy in the individual man. These together embody the combined forces of the planetary life as registered by the perfected individual. They will eventually enable the man to achieve perfection.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the first paragraph there. There's a couple more, but that
gives us an idea. You know, that's interesting. I'm thinking again of the violet to white paradigm here, you know, with the 7 going to the 1. But it sounds like when the centers are, the 7 centers, which he is calling the supplementary 7, the 7.
Right.
And that makes sense, because what you have, we'll actually get to this in our concluding statement. The supplementary quality of this is that they are, in a sense, the aspects of the 1. So the 7 centers would be this supplementary to the 1 human being, just as the 7 planetary logoi are the 7 supplementary centers of the solar logos. So that's about as good as I can do for you at this point. So let's go into the next stage. The stage of the synthetic grasp of the purpose of a symbol. Excuse me just a moment. Of its place in an ordered manifesting plan, and of its true unified intent. The stage is not about attributes, rather it has to do with synthesis and unity, synthetic purpose and unified intent. Just as the first stage has to do with the physical plane, the second with the astral, and the third with the mental plane, this stage suggests that we apply our intuition, which is the force of the Buddha plane. Notice, too, that this stage is threefold. The stage of the synthetic grasp of the purpose of a symbol, of its place in an ordered and manifesting plan, and of its true unified intent. So, what is the synthetic purpose or unified intent of this figure? And what is its place in an ordered manifesting plan? What single purpose characterizes this figure? As usual, we're asking the great big questions here. You know, this isn't something that any one of us could pretend to actually know the answer to, but it doesn't hurt to move in the direction of formulating the answer to this question. What single purpose characterizes this figure? Does anybody have any ideas? Welcome to take a moment to consider.
Okay.
Just let me know.
Guadalupe has her hand up. She's had it up for a little bit, though, so.
Okay. This may not be connected.
I would like to go back to this figure in which you had 1 in the middle and the other numbers around. And then for me, 1 in the middle is unity, or ray 1. And then there is the soft rays and the hard rays. In kind of a triangle of soft rays and hard rays working out.
Okay. Yes. Let me get back there. I didn't realize it was so far back. There we go. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So you have the.
There is 1 ray 1.
That's right.
Unity,
right.
Center, whatever, and then you have the 2, 4, 6, and they seem to go in the same direction, and they work on the soft rays. And then you have 3, 5, 7 acting in the hard rays, and all related or connected to 1.
Yes, that's a brilliant point. Yeah, I was relating it here to the planes, but it certainly equally relates to the rays. As we know, the planes and the rays are connected. He does this, and he mentioned it directly in esoteric psychology. So here we see also a metaphor for them literally moving in harmony. And yet you also have the way that they connect odd to even, by, in a sense, propelling the ray in the opposite direction. So it's a beautiful system of interrelatedness, and it shows that one stands, in a sense, outside of this kind of manifested motion. Thanks very much for bringing that point up. I think it was really worth revisiting. I'm going to do some fast forwarding here.
Okay, Francis?
Yeah.
We have several comments.
Yeah.
We start with one here from Lynn. She says, could the circles be globes?
Oh, absolutely, they could be globes. And keep in mind, too, that, as I brought up before, that 12 globes surround a 13th globe, just in the same way that 6 circles surround a 7th circle. It's a very interesting relationship between the 6 in 1 and the 12 in 1, because you have this idea of the master and his disciples with that 13th, So yes, is the short answer. You could certainly make them spheres, even two-dimensionally like this. They could be spheres, and it would be just as effective.
And then Nancy says, I see it as a symbol of a solar system, the 6 impelled into motion by the 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Catherine says, I think I saw a 3-dimensional cross in the axes of the hexagram.
In the axis, yeah, okay. Right. If you took the, how can you say this? I can't go back to the slide with the axes because it's way back, but if you imagine the axes going through them, you can see that if you're looking at it at an angle, kind of like when you look at the cube on end, you see the 6 equilateral triangles, but it's actually could be a 3-dimensional cube. In the same way, it could be looked at as a 3-dimensional cross, which is also something that none of us have pointed out, but that makes it clear. It delineates the 6 directions, doesn't it? I mean, the up, down, and the 4 directions, east, west, south, and north. And that cross, that 3-dimensional cross, does exactly that. It's the cube of space in that sense. So thank you for that. Yeah.
And then we have a couple of more comments on the law of the supplementary 7. Jan says refers to the 7 chakras of the initiate. And Martin says it's the great synthetic law of life or of spirit, and it's the law with which the initiate works, synthesis.
Okay, thank you, both of you. So.
Okay,
Great.
and that's all the hands and comments I see.
Okay, so let's get back to this idea of a synthetic purpose of this symbol. What could it be indicating? What is its meaning? Singular synthetic purpose, or its purpose as part of the plan. Any ideas at all? These are the big questions. We only ask one of these big questions in each webinar, right?
Okay.
The synthetic purpose of the symbol we're looking at.
I've got several things here. From Rays and Initiations, page 154. I think this is on the 7. Only when his centers are somewhat awakened and attuned is it possible for him to work within the larger framework of the hierarchy. And this because the quality of the greater groups and life expression of the 7 planetary groups, the 7 rays, are being slowly developed by him under the influence of hierarchical supervision through the medium of his own 7 centers, the supplementary 7. So that's the reference in.
Okay.
And then Jeremy says the figure suggests a 6-pointed star. Hold on, let me mute somebody.
You might be wanting to mute me because there's a tremendous hailstorm going on outside my
Oh,
window.
is that what it is? Okay. Anyway, let me see. Jeremy's got a couple of comments here. He says, the figure suggests a six-pointed star with a center circle, which integrates the six triangles of the star. In terms of human evolution, this symbolizes the integration of the personality with the soul and the central monad, or the synthesis of the seven principles of the manifested spiritual human.
That's really nicely said. Well, we have, I'm going to say this back in another way. You have, in the six-pointed star, you have the up-pointing and down-pointing triangle. So right there, you have personality and soul. But then you also have the central circle, which, if you remember in the figure where I showed the six-pointed star, that there was a hexagon that could be drawn and embraced exactly in this central circle. And that could represent a further stage, which would be the monad. So you have all three present, six through the, I should say, soul and personality through the sixth, but then the seventh introduces the monad. So that's beautifully said. I like that.
I'm sorry, he continues, in one sense, it I think he meant symbolizes the man is the measure of all things, or the perfect synthesis of the microcosm and the macrocosm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other thing is the idea of the seven centers. We tend to think of them linearly, but that's probably an illusion from a point of view of energetically. I mean, it certainly is going to be connected to the Kundalini and the way that centers unfold as the energy moves up the spine. But I would suggest that we could look at, remember the numbering system where 4 was in the center, and then the other numbering system where 1 was in the center? Well, we could have either the head center in the center of this, or the heart center in the center, and arrange the chakras accordingly. And it would suggest a unifying of the energetic that all 7 centers bring. So, that's the one of the meanings of the supplementary 7, as it was pointed out. The concept of the centers fully awakened.
Okay. Nancy says, could it represent the harmony of the spheres?
Oh, sure. I mean, we've seen it in the motion, in the precision of their geometrical interrelation. And, hey, it's 7. We have 7 sacred planets, right? And if you draw Tanya's circle around the hole, you have the 8th, or the solar logos with its 7 sacred planets. And that's about as harmonious as it gets. So, yeah, I would say that maybe the best one-liner, short answer to this of all is just the harmony of the spheres. Terrific.
Jan says, as a whole, it is a galvanizing central crystal, or fractal patterning, or sounding the sevenfold form of dense manifestation in this system.
I like that. Yeah.
And then
It has
oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Martin has a comment.
Okay, while Martin's getting it together, I'll just say this, that there is a crystalline quality to this, because the crystals have 6 sides invariably, but they also have a point at the top, right? So you can see the metaphor is intact here, 6-sided crystal with a point at the top. Go ahead, Martin.
I just want to comment on 4 being in the central circle. 3 things occur to me. 4 or 1. 1 and 4 are the 2 rays that create the law of sacrifice. It's Atma pouring through the petals of the law of sacrifice. Sacrifice is the note of the planet and the planetary logos and the note of the solar system. And the 4th subplane of the etheric is the place where all this occurs, whether you're talking about the physical etheric or the cosmic etheric. So if you relate the cosmic etheric and the physical etheric as the place of sacrifice of the individual, whether individual man, planetary planetary logos or solar logos, you get a good idea of what's going on here. So I think this represents the sacrifice of the solar logos through the 7. So, and I think that's what it's all about.
That's nicely said. It's important, the idea of including the 4. You have the 1, the 4, and the 7,
yes.
right?
Right?
And they, one of the things that you discover if you read a treatise on white magic is the importance of the 4th etheric, right? It's also where the violet devas begin to appear, right? And so you have the 7th of violet moving to the 1 of white, or purity, through the agency of the 4th subplane. It's a place of crisis and initiation. Remember, the 4th ray is, right, it's harmony through conflict, right? So you have this sacrifice and conflict are very much related, this 1, 4, and 7. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Yes. Any other thoughts?
I don't see any right now.
Okay, let's move on. I'll give you my ideas as to the synthetic purpose of this figure. This figure is a subjective diagram of a unit of consciousness, with 1 as the number of spirit, 6 the number of form, and 7 the number that integrates the 2 of spirit-infused form. This figure illustrates a prototype of the 3 aspects of divinity present in all manifested units of consciousness. This hypothesis is strengthened by the fact that this figure's potential direct, spiralic, and rotational motion represents the threefold motion inherent in the 3 aspects of divinity, which are all contained in any single unit of consciousness. When we then overlay, thank you, Tanya, the point within the circle, we literally have the 7 in 1, which is a model of atomic, human, systemic, and cosmic organization. For instance, the human being with his or her 7 microcosmic principles, the solar logos encompassing its 7 planetary logi, or the one about whom not may be said, encompassing its 7 solar systems. Thus, our figure represents a reality that is both fractal and hylozoistic, which just means that at every level the form carries the life force. Okay, we're out of time here, so the final stage in DK's criteria for analyzing a symbol is identification with the quality and purpose of this symbol as it is illuminated by the mind, held steady in the light. This final stage brings into activity the brain as well as the mind, unquote. So, let's attempt to identify with, rather than merely reflect on, the quality and purpose of this figure. We'll take exactly 1 minute to do this, starting now. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the webinar. During the next session, we'll begin our survey of the number 8 with an analysis of the octahedron. the reciprocal dual of the cube. You remember when we were looking at the cube. The reading for this month includes the chapters on the number 8 in both The Key to the Universe, Volume 1, and A Beginner's Guide to Constructing the Universe. So if you've been keeping up, it's time to read those chapters. Today's visualization comes from stanza 5 of the stanzas of Zan in The Secret Doctrine. Before we begin, take a look at the first sentence of verse 6, which goes, the Lepikas circumscribe the triangle. The first one, the cube, the second one, and the pentacle within the egg. What does that suggest to you? Anyone understand what's being referred to here? Any thoughts about that? It has a very particular reference, and I wanted to point it out before we actually go into the meditation.
Okay,
The
Scott?
triangle, yeah, I thought you might get it. Go for it.
He's got to take himself off. He's on self-mute.
Okay.
Scott?
Unmute thyself. No, we're not hearing you, buddy.
There we go, there we go.
Alrighty. You alluded to it earlier with 22 sevenths as the approximation of pi. And this is 31415.
31415. And then, within the egg, right? What does that tell you? It's a further clue, the egg being the circle, right? Which pi relates to, right? So it's just a beautiful way of saying basically pi, right? The pentacle within the egg, 31415. It also suggests that these numbers aren't just random, just what happened to come out when somebody, divided the circumference by the diameter. That it's very specific numbers that are magically endowed. Anyway, I wanted to point that out so that when we come to it, you'll have some sense of what that's concerned with. So we'll begin and end with an Om, and just attempt to visualize this, the content as I give this guided visualization. Stanza 5. The primordial seven, the first 7 breaths of the dragon of wisdom, produce in their turn from their holy circumgyrating breasts the fiery whirlwind. They make of him the messenger of their will. The Zayu becomes Fohat, the swift son of the divine sons, whose sons are the Lepika, runs circular errands. Fohat is the steed, and Thought is the rider. He passes like lightning through the fiery clouds, takes 3 and 5 and 7 strides through the 7 regions above and the 7 below. He lifts his voice and calls the innumerable sparks and joins them. He is their guiding spirit and leader. When he commences work, he separates the sparks of the lower kingdom that float and thrill with joy in their radiant dwellings, and forms therewith the germs of wheels. He places them in the 6 directions of space, and one in the middle, the central wheel. Fohat traces spiral lines to unite the 6th to the 7th, the crown. An army of the sons of light stand at each angle, and the Lepika in the middle wheel. They say, this is good. The first divine world is ready. The first is now the second. Then the divine Arupa reflects itself in Chahaya Loka, the first garment of Anupadaka. Fohat takes 5 strides and builds a winged wheel at each corner of the square for the 4 holy ones and their armies. The Lapika circumscribe the triangle, the first one, the cube, the second one, and the pentacle within the A. It is the ring called Pass Not for those who descend and ascend. Also, for those who, during the Kalpa, are progressing towards the great day, be with us. Thus were formed the Rupa and the Arupa. For 1 light, 7 lights. From each of the 7, 7 times 7 lights. The wheels watch the ring. Okay, that's it for today. Don't forget to donate a few bucks to the Moria Federation at moriafederation.com, which will help pay the yearly fee for this GoToMeeting account that makes these webinars possible. And thanks to Brett, these webinars are available on makara.us. Thank you, BL, for your continued invaluable assistance. I can't really imagine patting my head and rubbing my stomach at the same time like you seem to be able to do. And thank you all for attending. Get out there on the streets with placards proclaiming the existence of this webinar and draw people in. We'd love to have our numbers swell. It was great, by the way, to meet some of you at the conference. I now have faces for some of the voices that I didn't have before. I hope to see you again at our next session, which will be on June 19th, which is also Father's Day. So you may excuse yourself from the groaning board long enough to attend the webinar. Okay, that's it, and bye for now. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.